You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheinman. The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is Judge Judy.
The plaintiff is suing the defendants for incorrect inventory counts. The plaintiff, Ms. Investor, invested her life savings into the defendant's company, Unicorn Incorporated, which sells unicorn meat. The plaintiff, she claims that he showed her falsified financial statements to con her into investing, whereas the defendant, Mr. Bossman, claims he did everything within legal boundaries and followed the rules of GAAP to the T. Now we'll let the real Bossman get down to business. All rise to the honor, Judge Judy. Please, all rise. Here's case number 113 about FIFO versus LIFO liquidation. All parties have been sworn in. You may all be seated.
Don't get comfortable, bailiff.
Why?
We're not going to be here very long.
Okay.
All right, let's get this thing started. Ms. Investor, can you please explain exactly how Mr. Bossman manipulated you into investing in Unicorn Inc.?
Well, he showed me the financial statements for the last 4 years that displayed a growing gross profit. Last year, it more than doubled, making unicorn meat look like a solid investment. As you can see, he told me that it was supposed to spike to almost $70,000 in 2014. He claimed my contribution would boost the production and lower costs, being able to fulfill a high demand for unicorn meat.
Well, I told her the high demand we were going to have, not the high demand we did have.
I'll get to you in a minute. Ms. Investor, please continue.
In reality, there is no demand for unicorn meat.
All right, so let's hear your side of the story, Mr. Bossman.
Unicorn meat is a growing business. Wait, this is on national television, right?
Yes.
Free advertising.
Wait, in my 110 years on this bench, I've never heard of unicorn meat.
That's because unicorn meat is an international market and not really popular yet in the United States. But a national marketing like this will definitely change that soon.
Bailiff, supposedly this IFRS is supposed to regulate this. Have you ever heard of these IFRS people?
You don't know what the International Financial Reporting Standards are? It's a set of international rules that regulate international accounting standards.
Oh.
Yeah, I learned that in my 2 years of accounting classes. IFRS actually disapproves of LIFO, whereas in United States standards, the GAAP approves GAAP. GAAP allows it, even though they have been pushing to converge.
Oh, I see. So, Mr. Bossman, why does your company use LIFO when it is exclusive to GAAP?
Well, I technically don't have a location outside of the U.S. We make it here and we export it. So all of our accounting is done under GAAP, which allows LIFO, of course. Our product is popular overseas, but we sell it through eBay.
Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. This LIFO FIFO sounds like nothing but a big-ass loophole to me.
A loophole for one is a perfectly legal thing for another. If you don't like it, then you need to change the law. This is 100% legitimate. If you look at my inventory account, I correctly accounted for my last in, first out procedure and noted it in my financial statements.
Nobody ever reads the fine print.
That's not my fault. I presented LIFO clearly in footnote 11.
So why did you go through LIFO liquidation this year?
Because we felt like the safety stock is not necessary anymore, and we decided to convert to a just-in-time approach.
How was I supposed to read that tiny paragraph in 100 pages of financial statements?
Sounds like a personal problem to me.
Order, order, order. I see the note represents the LIFO liquidation. On another note, I'm curious, what exactly is unicorn meat? Is this meat fed to unicorns or meat made from unicorns?
Well, the long answer is neither. The short answer is both.
Anyway, what is the shelf life on this stuff?
I don't know, like 6 months? With all due respect, Miss Lady Judge Judy, we aren't here to discuss any product. We aren't to discuss my product or the pending food poisoning lawsuits. That's another court and another day.
Let me explain something to you, mister. This show is not called Judge Bossman. It's called Judge Judy. You know why that is? because I'll decide what is and isn't relevant to this case. So, Mr. Bossman, you're saying that unicorn meat that you bought 3 years ago is the same stuff that you have in inventory today?
Well, that's physical inventory. The physical inventory follows a FIFO system, first in, first out. Whereas, in that system, the oldest inventory gets used first. But in the accounting inventory, follows a LIFO system for book purposes.
Bailiff, are you getting all this?
Sounds like a load of baloney to me.
Bailiff, let's look at the gross profit will look like under FIFO.
Yes, Judge. As compared to FIFO, it looks like all LIFO does is save all his savings until the last year.
So, Mr. Bossman, which do you feel like represents your company better? FIFO or LIFO?
I plead the fifth.
You plead the fifth because only a moron would use LIFO.
So are you freezing to answer which one?
Well, there's two sides to every coin. That doesn't mean one side is wrong. It looks like I make more money under LIFO.
I believe I'm ready to make my judgment. While this isn't technically illegal, it is highly unethical. It seems clear to me that FIFO shows a much more accurate picture of your company over the years. Your profit is more evenly distributed across the years as it actually was, as opposed to LIFO, which manipulates it into holding it all for use in the last year.
I haven't done anything wrong. I followed the law. I presented her with the correct financial statements. She didn't do her due diligence and read the footnotes.
Mr. Bossman, you need to calm down.
No, you need to calm down. Presenting LIFO liquidated year is perfectly legal. Miss Investor just happened to come on board the years I did it.
If you don't lower your voice, I'm going to have the bailiff escort you out and the case goes to the plaintiff.
I know my rights. I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
Sir, you need to
LIFO
leave.
liquidation's fine. Did nothing wrong.
As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by that outburst, LIFO is hanging on to GAP by a thread. GAP needs to go ahead and cut their ties to LIFO as the situation, just like this, shows manipulation of the financial statements and confuses investors. Judgment is for the plaintiff. GAP should remove LIFO accounting standards. The primary reason for LIFO is to alter COGS for tax purposes. If we feel this is still warranted, then we should use an accounting difference between taxes and GAP. Court is dismissed.
Are you a victim of a scam? Go to JudgeJudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
We now open the floor for questions.
Definitely no technical questions.
Right.
What's your opinion basically in terms of the future of LIFO with what's going on in the accounting world with the conversion between IFRS and US GAAP and all of that?
I think once it converges, we should not allow LIFO because it is really easy to manipulate financial statements and it shows that you're making more money rather than not.
Yeah, and I think as we've shown in the presentation and made fun of the idea that it's only represented by a note in the financial statements, which most people that are active investors don't really pay much attention to, I guess. I mean, they see it sometimes, but people working for like JP Morgan will see that and understand that, but say me or you trying to invest in a stock will never understand that concept.
I think you're right. Most analysts or anything, or even bank covenants, are going to allow you to calculate. You're going to add back a LIFO reserve or anything, and they want to know FIFO inventory from an analyst standpoint.
Yeah.
I can say from an auditor perspective, I 100% agree with you. There's a couple clients that have LIFO. I wish they'd do away with it too. But you guys tackled a tough topic there for sure.
Yeah. But I think ultimately the GAP needs to have some kind of, what they do most of the time, have a timeline and say that we need you to go ahead and convert, say, 15% of your LIFO inventory to FIFO, and then go ahead and write it off the books over a period of time so it doesn't make a big jump. Because I think that's another problem, is what do you do when everybody across the United States ends up dumping all of their LIFO inventory at one moment? That's going to make everything look crazy.
I think a lot of businesses already kind of use FIFO just for physical count. So for them to kind of change that for book purposes kind of tells you something right there. I mean, why, if you're already preparing a FIFO inventory, do you need to switch it for book purposes? And
Most of that probably stems around tax.
right.
Tax
Yeah.
play, which is a topic that's been in Washington for quite some time to do away with LIFO from a federal income tax standpoint, which I'm not terribly sure where that stands right now in the legislation.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we concluded at the end that we think that GAAP should go ahead and do away with it, and if they have to have like a tax difference between GAAP and tax for a little while, then they can do that until tax figures out what they can do.
Mhm.
I don't think tax not necessarily always makes sense. So,
Yeah.
so from that perspective, you don't want it in the gap world. Not that gap always makes sense, but
Yeah.
okay. Well, thank you.
Well done.
Well done.
Thank you.